Hello from Maryland. I am down here in Maryland for the early crossbow season. That's what I call it anyway. Down here in Maryland with Bunjie. With the help of my daughter Genevieve, we got sighted in, got down here, and we are good to go. Made the trip just fine, got down here, got all set up, and we've been out a couple of times here already. No luck so far. Unfortunately, I know I look like a scurf right now. I'm kind of worn out. I've been laying around here and just, I've either been hunting or sleeping. That's all I've been doing, rushing around. I've been getting up 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning in order to get in the tree stand as early as possible. And the weather's pushing the deer around a little bit. I think that is affecting what we've got. I was looking forward to the weather coming down here because it's unseasonably cool. Last year when I was here, you may recall, I shot a nice doe, but it was 100 degrees last year practically the whole time I was here. I was sweating the whole time. This time it's much more comfortable, 70 degrees, 72, highs of like 72 degrees. You can't ask for better weather to hunt deer in my opinion. But the deer just haven't been cooperating. I have basically only seen fawns the whole time that I have been here. Which I'm not complaining. I'm still having a great time. I'm just a little bit frustrated because I'm not seeing the deer that I am accustomed to seeing when I come to Maryland. What's dominating the weather this year is Hurricane Irma. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, so to speak, I'm sure you know, you've heard about Hurricane Irma. While I've been watching the weather, while I've been paying attention to this hurricane to see if it's going to affect me here in Maryland, to affect my hunting, one of the terms that they keep throwing about is the cone of uncertainty. We keep hearing that term. And basically what it means is they can look with satellite imagery and tell you exactly where the hurricane is right now, right at this second. And they can tell what it's doing, and they can tell from other measurements, the high pressure system out in the Atlantic, that sort of thing, the land masses that are in the hurricane's immediate path, stuff like that. They can sort of predict the direction, but they can't predict it with 100% certainty. In other words, it's a cone of uncertainty, that the farther out you go in time, the farther out you go in distance, the less accurate they are with predicting their path of the hurricane. Now, what does that have to do with crossbows? Very simple. That cone of uncertainty, I'm going to start using that term in connection with crossbows, hunting, and long shots, and shooting at targets at long distances. It illustrates perfectly that sort of what I was trying to make before. I was describing it as a triangle, describing it as a funnel. None of those terms really work, but basically it's this long, the farther out you go with your shot, the point I was trying to make is the more external factors and your own skill level can affect the accuracy of your shot and can really throw it off track. Shorter shots are better because that cone of uncertainty is narrower. The shorter you are, the closer you are to the end of that crossbow, the less that can go wrong. If you're off a little bit at 10 yards, you may not notice it, but you'll notice it at 20 yards. You'll notice it more at 30 yards. You'll notice it even more at 40 or 50 yards. For example, if there's branches in your way at 20 yards, there's even more branches in the way at 30 yards or 40 yards or 50 yards. Grass, same thing. If the wind is going to affect your shot, it will affect your shot a little bit at 10 or 20 yards, maybe not that much, but at 30 or 40 yards it only becomes more. And if you stretch out to 50, 60 yards, the wind has a great effect on your shot. The cone of uncertainty illustrates that perfectly to me because as those shots get longer, it becomes less and less certain, or in other words, more and more uncertain as to whether or not you're going to hit your target. Your chances for something to go wrong, just like the hurricane, becomes harder to predict. The farther out in time you go, the farther out in distance you go, it is harder to predict how accurate your shot will be the farther the shot is. And that cone of uncertainty just illustrates it perfectly. Remember one of the things I did, there's an arrow ballistics calculator. If you're off a little bit with your rangefinder, with your guessing or picking out how far that shot is, if you think it's 20 yards but it's really 25, there's approximately 11 inches drop going from 20 yards to 30 yards on my crossbow based on those arrow ballistics calculators. Now if I go out to 5 yards, somewhere in between that, that's a 5-inch difference. I might still, even though I'm off by 5 yards, I might still take that deer home with me. That 5 yards may or may not ruin my day. But look at the difference in the arrow drop over a greater distance. If the deer is at 55 yards and I think it's 50 yards, between 50 and 60 there is a 22-inch drop in the arrow between 50 yards and 60 yards. That means if the deer is at 55 yards, the arrow might be off by 10 or 11 inches. That's huge. That's wounding a deer and not taking it home. That's looking all day, wasting your time, and not finding the deer that you shot at. You're not doing anybody any favors. The human error is magnified. That goes out to that cone of uncertainty. I love that term, and I think I'm going to use that from now on, that cone of uncertainty. As those shots get longer, you're only increasing the room for your human error as well. Even with a 400 feet per second crossbow, shooting the same arrows that I use, when I typed in those numbers as an example, we're looking at 45 inches drop at 60 yards versus a 29-inch drop at 50 yards. That's 16 inches difference. So we're looking at 7 or 8 inches difference. If the deer's actually at 55 yards, but I thought it was at 50 yards, and I take a shot at 50 yards using my 50-yard reticle, and I shoot that deer and it's really at 55 yards, we're off by 8 inches, even with a fast crossbow. You're off by 8 inches. And it's easier for your rangefinder to be wrong. It's easier for you to misjudge the distance the longer that shot is versus the shorter the shot is. And those errors, those differences, only magnify over distance and only get worse over distance in terms of making that shot accurate or not. Even a couple of yards difference could be a difference of 3 or 4 inches, and with my crossbow could be the difference of 4 or 5 inches just on a 2-yard difference. I thought the deer was at 50, it was really at 52. That could be a 5-inch difference in accuracy. It's not worth it. I just want to throw this out there. I'm not saying that everybody has to think like me whatsoever. That's not my point. But for me, archery and crossbow hunting is all about getting up close and personal with deer. That's the reason I made the switch to hunting with a crossbow from hunting with a rifle. If I wanted to shoot deer at 70 yards, I would shoot deer with a rifle. It's a way better way to do everything. It's way more effective. And it kills deer whether you're accurate or not. Rifles are awesome, and I love rifles. But I have no interest in hunting with a rifle at this time. Probably never will again. I mean, other than varmints and stuff like that. But I really don't have that much interest in hunting deer with a rifle because I just like sitting in a blind or a tree stand and seeing deer come in close. Nothing makes me happier in deer hunting than seeing deer up close and personal. 10, 20-yard shots, maybe 30-yard shots. Those are fine for me. And I just want to throw this out there that maybe they should be fine for you too. That's all I've got on this episode of Death by Bunjie. I don't want to be preachy or anything like that. I don't want to make this into that kind of channel. But I do hope that you got something out of this. And I thank the comments, people that left comments on the last few videos to pinpoint some of this stuff, because I thought it helps me think about it further and think about how this sort of all applies to what we're doing in the woods and crossbow hunting in general. And I'm glad that you watched the videos. I really am. I only wish I could do more videos. That's what it comes down to. But for right now, I got to get ready to go out and head out into the woods here in Maryland. Wish me luck. Wish Bunjie luck. And until next time, all hail Bunjie.